Hey, it's me, Unapologetically T, and I am back with another video. Today I wanted to focus on codependency. I do want to say, disclaimer for all my videos, I am not in any shape or form in any medical field, mental health, any of that. However, I do have my own life experiences, so I am not licensed to tell you what to do. If you need mental health advice or, any of those types of helps, I will provide resources that I've used. However, I do, want you to go get some professional help. However, I just typically make these videos to share from my own experiences. So, that's that. So I wanted to talk about codependency today. Codependency is something that I've struggled with all my life. I wasn't even aware of I was codependent until I was in my I would say I first heard the term codependency probably like my early 30s, maybe late 20s. So I'm going to give you the definition online for codependency. Most codependency people, you typically, I would say, by the late 20s, early 30s. I do know my daughter's generation, those kids are tech savvy, so they know a lot more than we did growing up about mental health. And thank God for them, because actually my daughter used to help me with identifying that I was in a narcissistic relationship. Like, I remember the first time she was like, "He's gaslighting you," and I was like, "What the hell is gaslighting me?" And she pulled it up and showed me a YouTube video. And so then I was like, "Oh, he is gaslighting me." And that's when I learned about gaslighting, and how someone else can pretty much like get you to believe their own reality over yours. And that's when I knew I had a problem. But codependency is a dysfunctional relationship dynamic where one person assumes the role of the giver, sacrificing their own needs and well-being for the sake of the other, the taker. The bond in question doesn't have to be romantic. It can occur just as easily between parent and child, friends and family members. So that's one definition, and then there's like a dictionary definition that says it's an excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support on account of an illness or an addiction. One of the things I do want to point out is I like the first definition better, because in a codependent relationship, you do see the word, co, right? So code typically means that there is going to be two parties. So one second. Sorry about that. I'm back. So yeah, I think I left off at like code is usually going to mean that there's two people, or it takes two to tango, or there is just some mutual or common, dependencies. So like code typically means that it is like same mutual, that type of meaning. So both parties in this dynamic, it can also be multiple, more than one party. When I think about being more than one party, you might have a family unit that is set up, that is codependent, and they're the codependency is in deeply intertwined in that family dynamic. When we're thinking about romantic relationships, both parties who typically stay in a codependent relationship, both parties are usually codependent. That's why I like the first definition better, because usually there is a dynamic of a giver and a taker. Usually there is a dynamic of the giver thinking that they are doing good deeds for this other person, and then with the taker, they're usually just worried about getting their own needs and stuff met. They really don't care about what the giver got going on. And I do want to say there can be the reason some people don't realize that they're in abusive or codependent relationships, I call codependent relationships abusive because it is a dysfunctional dynamic. So most of the times people do not realize they're in this relationship, because most of the time people think about abusive relationship as if the person is just treating them all bad all the time, and that could be the farthest from the truth. We need to start looking at abusive relationships as if the abusive party, and both people in the abusive relationships can be abusive. One can just be more abusive than the other, and more dangerous than the other. But typically the waters can get muddied quickly when y'all stay together for too long. Because even if you're not the person that's abusive physically or extremely abusive emotionally, you do start to have toxic behaviors surface, because you're going to be retaliating at the abuse that you're receiving or whatever. So it gets, the dynamic becomes like muddy, and it does the person who is typically the giver a disservice when we think about relationships being all abusive. So like when people typically say, well, I don't understand why the person stays, typically there is some needs being met, it's just not being met in a healthy sense. And typically it means that not always does it mean that someone who is in these type of relationships has experienced it before in life. However, most likely if you are in these codependent dynamics, typically you have lived in chaos and dysfunction in your childhood relationships. So, and this can be physical, emotional, financial, it could be sexual. You have experienced some type of trauma and dysfunction in your own, your first, like your first relationship that you learn in life. Like when we're first born, we're born into a family and we learn relationship dynamics to our family, and we don't think about it like that, but we truly do. We learn how relationships function from our parents, our siblings, and then our childhood friends, and then our bigger family unit, right? So like you have your immediate family, and then you have the family that spreads and branches out. I can't remember the name of it. I learned it in my sociology class, but I forgot. It's slipping me now. But yeah, so we typically learn our behaviors from that. With my own personal life experiences, I definitely learned codependency through childhood. I have been transparent in my past videos. So if you're new to this channel, then you definitely probably should start from the beginning and check out those videos and let them take you away. I hope to, enlightenment and just knowing that you're not alone if you do resonate and relate to this content. But yeah, so mine started out in childhood. I had no idea that children of parents who struggle with alcohol abuse or drug abuse typically become codependent kids. When I was growing up, I was never allowed to feel like what I was going through was something, just because of the simple fact that my mom had endured such extreme abuse. She had endured, I didn't go through extreme physical abuse. I did see a lot of physical abuse going on in my neighborhood and even in my household, but I would say like I wasn't physically, I don't feel like I was physically abused myself, and I did grow up with corporal punishment, which is spanking and whippings, but I don't feel like she abused her power with that, except for one time. One time, and I said I'll tell that story one day, and I will, and it was so stupid, like it was the dumbest reason for me to get a beating. But anyway, yeah, I ain't like that. But other than that, out of all my years of living, like I never really saw like where it was abuse of power. And I really like I got my last I wouldn't even call that an ass whooping. Well, I would call that an ass whooping. I wouldn't call it a spanking. I'll call it ass whooping. Like, but she physically fought me like when I was probably like 18. I was about on my way to college and I was talking shit. And so I would say I deserved that ass whooping. Cause I was kind of wrong. And but yeah, let me get back to it because some people believe that corporal punishment is abuse, period, physically. For me, I feel like if you're not over abusing it, and I'm starting to change, and that's another thing with these videos. I'm constantly growing. I'm constantly unlearning shit. Corporal punishment has some deep fucking rooted roots in slavery, and even though it was beneficial for certain generations to receive corporal punishment because if you didn't get your shit together at home and you act a certain way in public, that could have meant death. That could have meant you getting beat, hanged, any of those harsh, uncivilized things. So I do understand why black people, I think it's black people, statistic wise, African Americans and Asians are able to utilize corporal punishment where it's not extremely abusive. However, I do know some black people who have been abused and they will say they turned out just fine, but go off. So I am still in the process of unlearning a plethora of things that I feel like were instilled in me, brainwashed, all that stuff. So I'm on the fence about corporal punishment. However, I do know that it has some deep rooted negative, fucked up roots into slavery, and that turns me completely off when I think about it that way. I do think that there are so many situations where there can be a conversation had, and it does not have to be authority like. You can definitely talk to your child or another person without it getting physical. However, I do believe in if you put your hands on me, you're gonna get these hands. So I'm still learning and unlearning. So that's that little snippet. We're gonna get back to the regular scheduled program of codependency. But yeah, my mom had been physically neglected, and when I say physically neglected, she grew up. She was poor. Her mom and my grandmother and my grandfather had 14 kids. They weren't all in the house at the same time. However, still a lot of kids in the house at the same time. She did not have, like the underclothes and hygiene products, and she had holes in her shoes, and like the food I always remember my mom talking about like her never feeling like food secure, and I don't even think they had running water because she would go, like her and her siblings had to take turn going to get water from like the creek or the river or whatever it was near the house. Um, yeah, and my grandmother also struggled with her own mental health issues, which I don't know back then whether it was recognized properly. However, I do know there was some stuff going on, which having 14 fucking kids is that right there is enough for me to need to have some mental health help. And my grandfather definitely, like, he was a truck driver, so he was not always there to help her. So yeah, my mom went through, I would say, severe neglect. Definitely, like, she even remember like going to school and being hungry. So like she just remembered not being properly taken care of. She remembered being ashamed of her home. She remembers, and this is no slight against my grandmother or my grandfather. Like, they was all doing the best they could with what they had. And if you ain't noticed or not, like, even though me and my mom has our differences, like, I know my mom did the best she could with what she had. So that's why I still have a relationship with my mom. And I always, I always love both of my parents, but at the end of the day, like, I do not choose to have any dealings with my father whatsoever, but I do choose to deal with my mother because I watched her. I watched her, give it her all. And she's a pretty strong woman, and I love her. So, but yeah, she did not have her emotional needs taken care of. So not only was her physical needs and emotion. Hold on one second. All right, so I'm back, and but yeah, so her emotional needs was not taken care of. Like, if you had the experience of being told, like, you ain't old enough to have no nerves, when you be like, you just is getting on my nerves. I grew up hearing that. I grew up hearing basically so many things that, like, just invalidated my feelings, or that I even had feelings to begin with, or like I just grew up not being able to emotionally regulate anything. Like, basically I ended up learning happy. Didn't want to even deal with sad. Even though I knew I was sad, I didn't want to deal with that. So that internalized to anger. So I usually functioned off happy and anger, and I was able to push anger down deep. So it was like kind of like that gun sack thing where you just stuff your emotions down and then the bag ends up exploding on somebody. That's typically how I learned how to deal with my emotions. And I guess typically that's how my mom learned how to deal with hers. Um, so growing up, my mom struggled with alcohol and she did dabble in some drugs. My stepdad, he struggled with alcohol and drug abuse. My dad, biological dad, he struggled with alcohol addiction and still do. He got dementia and still can't stop drinking, even though they didn't tell him to stop. But I guess at this age, he might as well go out with a bang. So what? Nothing. Don't put. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm getting distracted. Um. So I definitely learned codependency through childhood. Like, I even remember wanting my mom to stop drinking so bad that, like, I used to pour out her beer and put it exactly back the way it was. Um, and she would sometimes catch on that I was like pouring out her beer. She'd be like, "Titi, what happened to this?" And I'd just be like, "I don't know," and play dumb. But I just wanted her to stop drinking so bad. Like, I just would do that. I would take the risk. But I can say that, like, my mom was not an angry drunk. However, the switch, it didn't take much to flick the switch. So when I say that, like, my mom was typically in an elated mood when she was drunk. So it wasn't one of those situations where, like, we were getting beat because she was angry while she was drunk. Like, she wasn't an angry drunk. She was a very cool. Like, when she would get drunk, that was the time where I would, like, try to invite friends over, and then I would get them to ask her, because if I asked, she's gonna say no. So I would typically take advantage of situations. So I did learn how to be manipulative as a child, and I think we all do. So but however, me saying that, it did not take much for the flick to switch. So if you got her wrong while she was drunk, the same way that she would be so nice, like super super nice, she would be super super fucking, like, it was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Like, the switch could go, and it was never really on us. So, like, when I say us, I had another brother that lived in the house with me while I was growing up. So it was never like switched on us. But however, other people in the neighborhood could get it, and so I watched that growing up. And I grew up with that. Also, just feeling. I remember, like, I told her the other day, I used to pray for her to stop drinking, and by the time I figured out, she was doing drugs, like, I definitely used to pray all the time. Like, I used to pray constantly, like, that she would stop. And eventually she did. And I thank God she did. It was on her, she wanted to change. And, so I do know, I felt like she traded in her addiction for alcohol and substances, for things, because definitely she definitely had a shopping addiction. And I'm praying that I don't have it when I grow older. Hmm? Shut up. Hold on. All right, so yes, I'm back. I'm sorry. Had to be a mom. The child get on my nerves. And so, yeah, I learned a lot of my codependent ways from childhood. I had a father who was emotionally unavailable, a mom who was emotionally unavailable. However, she did take care of my physical needs. I never went hungry. I always had a closet full of clothes. Like, if you did go to school with me, I didn't dress like all that because I actually don't give a fuck about clothes. It wasn't that my mom wasn't buying me nice stuff. It's actually that I just don't care about stuff like that. And I literally like was the kid who I rather had the nice school supplies and book bag. You could go to the Family Dollar and get the shoes, or like, even if she had clothes, I typically, like, it wasn't my style, because she dresses better than I did, definitely back then. So I don't care about fashion. Let me just put it like that. Like, I will put on and dress nice for when I have to, but like, I really don't care. As long as I'm clean, look neat, my swag is my swag. Um, but yeah, my hair, she did not know what to do with my hair. So I will say that's a physical need that she did not meet. And she actually made me feel bad for. Um, but she told me later on that her mom didn't do her hair. And her mom would have to take her to get her hair done from other people. And her dad did too. So it was not like she didn't know how to do her hair when she was growing up. And because she has like a different curl pattern than I do, and a different like, her hair doesn't frizz as much as mine do. My hair frizzes a lot. um the humidity and stuff will affect my hair tremendously. And so she just didn't know what to do. And opposed to, trying to learn, I got called nappy headed when it was time to do my hair. It hurt when it was time to do my hair. I got burnt a lot when it was time to do my hair. Um, the chemicals in my hair, like, and my hair would laugh at the chemicals. That was the funny part about it. It was like, we will do straight for a day or two. And this is like relaxers. Like, we'll do straight for a day or two, but basically all that shit gonna do is give me a looser curl pattern. That's it. It's gonna make my curl pattern look looser. And so where some people get relaxers and their hair can be bone straight, mine to be bone straight for like a day or two, and then it's like poof. And like, I just basically, like, it does what a texturizer do to people's hair. Like, that's what a relaxer does to my hair. Um and my hair isn't like coarse, so like a super would burn it off. And so, like, it just was like different things she tried to do to my hair. It would never work. I don't know why I'm getting into this, but that definitely fucked with confidence right there. So, but yeah, going back to codependency. So I learned a lot of my codependency ways through childhood, with dealing with both of my, I'm gonna call it, emotionally immature parents. um yeah. I did feel like emotionally I always had to worry about and take care of my mom emotionally. Because emotionally she did not regulate. And she tried to make me not regulate. Like, I was the one, I felt responsible for how she felt, and I could tell when she was sad, and I could tell, that things weren't okay with her. And I believe I'm an empath. However, I do believe that growing up, I had to be hyper vigilant, which I do think is two different kind of things. I feel like with being an empath, I feel what other people can feel. However, being hyper vigilant is like having to actually physically pay attention to subtle changes in the household, like just knowing what kind of day it was going to be, and based off, how she was, or different shit. So I do feel like I had to be both. And yeah, I do feel like it affected me, and anytime I brought it up to say it affected me, there was always this defense and this minimization, um and always a comparing of trauma. So if I bring up something about how I felt, she would always bring up what she went through and how she felt. So like, I know her whole life story, but she literally doesn't have much memory about what I went through or how I feel, because she never wanted to deal with it. And even as today, she still don't want to deal with it. So I've learned to deal with my own feelings and emotion and validate my own self. Like, I'll never get that from her, and I'm okay with that now. I wasn't for a very long time, and that definitely was a lot of my resentment. But moving back in with her was a godsend. I thought it was punishment, but it's been a godsend, because it's teaching me that I validate me and I regulate me and my emotions. And I'm not here to change anyone else. And I can help people and I can lead people to help, but it is not my responsibility to change anybody else or fix anybody or expect for anybody to validate me. Like, if I can't validate me, then and I gotta rely on everybody else too. That's how I get in these situations of being in a codependent relationship. I'm always constantly looking for validation from others. So I do feel like if you struggle with codependency, first is acknowledging it. They do have groups out here for you. You can go to Coda. It is CODA.org, and find meetings near you. I tried codependency, coda meetings. It served its purpose for me for what I needed it. It is set up as kind of like 12 steps. So if you ever been to a Al-Anon, which I've done one meeting for that, because I was told since I had alcoholic parents to go ahead and try that. I didn't really care for it. However, I recommend everyone try whatever resources is out there. See what you like. See what fits. And it's kind of like Cinderella. You'll eventually find that glass slipper that fit and works for you. Codependency, I do recommend it. I think I did it for probably about 6 months, and I enjoyed it. It is definitely a safe space to talk about whatever you need to talk about. There is no cross sharing, so you don't have to worry about nobody projecting no feelings onto you or trying to give you advice. It is just simply you get your time to share, and then once your share is over, you know, we can give you love and support, but we do not give, advice or pointers or any of that. It can be like, sending you love, hugs, or, like that type of energy, or I'm praying for you, or, keep your head up, keep going type of comments, but nothing where it's just like, oh, well, you should have did this, or they should have did that, or why did they do that. I like that for where I was when I started going, because it was a safe space for me to share about the people in my life without feeling bad that I was talking about them, because I was in that state of mind where I was still protecting my abusers. And so that's why I say that helped me a lot. Coda meetings gave me the confidence I needed to start getting sharing. I feel like it was like gave me the confidence to share, gave me the confidence to realize like I'm not the only one going through things. I will say with CODA meetings, you do have it where it's a dynamic of, we can call it givers and takers together. You can, I call it empaths and narcissists. That's all up to you what you want to call it. Like I said, that's why I'm not in the medical field, because I don't want to do all that shit. Like, I want to be able to talk freely from my own life experiences, and hope that I still give out accurate information, but I don't want to be politically correct. So I just want to give it from a hood man's terms. And I definitely feel like we need more life experiences being shared when it comes to mental health, because definitely in the black community, we typically told not to air out your dirty laundry. You keep your family business within the family. There's so much stigma against being embarrassed and shamed, and it's like, it's time. It's time to let this shit out. It is killing us. It also has a lot of us walking around spiritually dead. Like, yeah, you could be successful on paper, but you're spiritually bankrupt. Like, you done sold your whole soul. Or you done gave it away. You just gave it a fucking way. So I just feel like I want to share more, because I almost died holding everything in. Um and then when I did eventually start to speak up, no one valued my fucking opinion. Like, I even remember when I was leaving my partner, like, my family was so um stuck on them being happy that I was leaving, that they wasn't even listening to me when I was saying that, like, I was afraid of him, um that I felt like he was stalking me, that he was following me, that he was tracking me. Like, I was saying all these things, and they didn't even believe it. They kept saying, well, I don't think he's doing this and that. They just was happy I had left. And now I'm just sitting there like scared to fucking death. And I'm hard to scare. That's the crazy part. I'm hard to scare. So I was sitting there scared to death. They didn't even believe me until I started to advocate for my own self and find things that it just wasn't adding up. Like, I found tracking devices eventually, because it just seemed it seemed like I was being followed. I couldn't shake the feeling. And so when I started having proof, that's when I started being heard. And then still, even after that, like, I was being projected on that, I shouldn't have any feelings. Like, I should just hated him, and that'd have been it. Like, I should not have any feelings towards him whatsoever, even though I lived with that man for 11 years. And I felt like, that was I was just being, once again, when I had an opportunity to kind of start healing, I wasn't able to heal properly, because I was once again stuck back with people who, it reminded me of, like, this is why you got in that relationship in the first place, because these people. So yeah, because, like, I literally ended up being numb for that whole year, because I was told, I remember crying to my sister and telling her, like, I was sad because he was gone. I had no intentions of going back to him. Like, I knew deep down inside my heart, like, I did not want to ever be with him again, period, point blank. I don't know, they didn't believe me on that either, but I knew I didn't want to be with him again. Be a friend, we could be friends if he could be cordial. Be in a relationship, hell no. Like, I just knew I didn't want to do that no more. And um it was just like, however, I'm still sad, I'm still hurt, like, I'm still not with the person that I thought I was gonna spend the rest of my life with. Like, just so much stuff, like, so much stuff had happened, and I'm trying to open up and share. And it was wonky. It was very wonky. It was not a safe space. I was told, this gonna be your last time crying about this, and it was my first time. So it's like what? So I'm like, and then when people who I do meet that is loving well, I'm gonna say people who I do meet, because I do feel like my family love me. However, emotionally bankrupt. People who I do meet who are emotionally intelligent and caring, um, they typically, get to see me be like, I don't open up or share like I should. It takes me a minute to be myself around people and stuff like that. And that's kind of like, wow, because I've never had safe space to be myself, to worry about myself. Um, it just always was easier to worry and care about others and to deny myself of feelings because I was constantly reminded of that. Even though, like, I am the most sensitive and feeling person ever. Like, I'm a bunch of fucking feelings. And the more I'm realizing that I don't have to be so fucking sensitive and intense about my feelings if I just regulate my feelings right then and there. Like, if I just acknowledge my feelings and deal with them right then and there, like, we don't have to have all these intense feelings that usually come out once I done held everything in for too long. So I will say this: if you met me while Dante had passed, I definitely raw. I was raw as hell, um, coming off of years of being numb and holding things in. Um, but yeah, like, I definitely learned my codependency from my family first. Um, I'm loving that I'm never going to be who I used to be. However, I'm loving who I am now and I'm loving who I used to be. Like, I love the different parts of me that got me through different stages in life, and I feel more whole now. Like, I feel like we're all a little melted together, and I acknowledge the parts of me that I don't like, and we're all still melted together. Because even the parts of me, and I'm not gonna say that I don't like, I'm gonna say parts of me that I've been made to feel guilty or shame about. Um, all those parts serve a purpose, and it's a time and a place for them, and they are to be, fed with love, and they are to be given time to have fun. And I feel like, be be, because I feel like if you suppress yourself so much that you typically gonna lose your identity in somebody else, which I did that. I lost my identity as a mother. I was a mother at an early age, not like super teeny, but I definitely lost my identity as a mother. I was 20 by the time I had her. And because I had an abortion, a forced abortion, I mean, well, I was given somewhat of an option, but it wasn't much. Go check out those videos. Um, I kind of like wanted to prove myself in motherhood, and I kind of got lost in that, and I made plenty of mistakes because I definitely, overdid it. I burned myself out, and I lost myself in being a girlfriend, and my whole world became what they wanted of me. I lost myself in being a daughter over the years before I became a mother and before I even became someone's girlfriend. So, like, I am now at this big age of 34, learning that this life is mine. I could be whoever I want to be, and I want to just be me. Like, I don't want to be nobody else. I don't want nobody else's voice stuck in my head too much. Cause that was another thing. Like, it was to a point where, like, I could hear my mother voicing me with every fucking decision I made. Like, whether I was gonna take that decision or not. Like, I just knew what she would think or what she would feel, and I always cared about what she would think, which is not abnormal. Like, that's normal. However, it was to the point that, like, sometimes I wasn't living life for me. So I'm learning now to do what makes me happy, and I feel free, and I feel like it's an exploration every day. Um, I'm just happy to be in a space where I can acknowledge my feelings and regulate them. I can acknowledge my own experiences. Like, I don't have to deny my own reality anymore for anybody else. And I feel like in codependent relationships, sometimes that happens. I also feel like in codependent relationships, there can be this wonky dynamic that, the giver will feel like they're being altruistic, or like basically you're helping others in a selfish way, but in all actuality you helping others does give you some type of satisfaction, because you're feeling like almost like you're gaining a good feeling from helping others, and so it's not completely selfless. However, it is detrimental to you to constantly put someone else above your needs. So I will say, like, I'm in a space where I'm learning to focus on my needs and wants. I'm not 100% there, and I'm never gonna probably be 100% because that's perfection. However, I am much better than yesterday, and I feel like if you struggle with codependency, it's one day at a time, 1 second at a time, sometimes 1 hour, 1 minute. Keep going. It is resources out there for you. So keep chugging. I do want to say that once I realized I was codependent, my therapist actually too gave me a book called Codependent No More. I will say, when you join, if you do start going to codependency meetings, they do have a book, which is awesome. I actually gave one of my books away to somebody, so I need to buy another one. But I love the book. It has the 12 steps, the promise, all that stuff in there, and different stories and information. And you good. Thank you, though. So definitely, check out that resources. But I will say, once I did build up confidence and started to build up knowledge and awareness of what codependency was, for my situation, I did have to move on to learn about narcissism and basically become an expert at that. So I will do a video on narcissistic abuse, and I have other videos on narcissistic abuse, and just talking about my experiences with it. But I did eventually stop going to CODA meetings, and went to narcissistic abuse recovery groups, which there is no, I think, official like website for that. You just have to look within your city or state, and find resources for that. And you can do a Google search and try to find narcissistic abuse recovery groups, but there is like no main database website for you to find groups. Um, those groups saved my life. The narcissistic abuse one, I feel like CODA saved my life in a subtle way of allowing me to feel safe and comfortable with expressing my feelings and what was going on in my life, and acknowledging that I felt like too it helped me with that victim mentality too. And when I say victim mentality, I do feel like if you've ever been victimized, there is a period of time where you become victimized. You have a victim mentality where things are, happening to you over and over again, and you're never really, because I feel like a victim should never really have to take responsibility for something someone else did to them, and you don't. However, you do have to take responsibility for why you keep ending up in the same situations over and over again, and that's when you're able to break free. But you have to be careful with that, because you can't control if someone, you know, robs you over and over. Like, you can prepare and protect yourself, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you can't control these situations from occurring. However, you can control how you're going to interact in them, and how long you're going to hold on to them, and how long you're going to deal with those people. So tomorrow I can go out there and meet a narcissist, but it's up to me to realize the red flags and say, I'm not going to even further engage in this. So that's what I mean by, like, not becoming overly like victimized, but I do feel like in any situation where you have suffered from abuse, there is going to be a period of time where you are focused on what actually happened to you and not on what you can do to make sure it never happens again. And I think that's where I'm at in my life, where I am just like, enough is enough. And I am going to be the person in my adult life that will protect me and show up for me, like someone should have when I was a child. And so I'm going to stand up for me. I'm going to take up for me. I'm going to be there for me. I'm going to love me. And I am going to be all I need to be. Um, and it's just a journey to continue to be healthy, for me. So, like I said, I don't have all this figured out, and I'm not going to pretend to. But this is my codependency spiel. I don't know. I felt called to do it. If you've been following this journey, um, I feel like God gave me topics of stuff I've been through, and I create videos for other people that may be struggling with it. Um, I ain't go through this stuff for nothing. I ain't almost died going through this stuff for nothing. And I hope that. And when I say that, I'm sorry. It did unalive. I didn't almost get unalive going through this stuff. I'm gonna have to get used to this world on the internet. But I did not almost like lose my life over stuff, to just hold it in and keep those experiences to myself. So if there's anything that you ever want me to talk about that I haven't talked about, I am open to it. Sometimes I just follow what is on, what's ringing in my head to talk about. So always, always, always give me suggestions, and like, follow, and subscribe. I mean, not follow. Ew. Like, subscribe, and comment. It helps the engagement. So, yep. I'll be on to another video.